To the town of our free rode a stranger one fine day. Hardly spoke to folks around him, didn't have too much to say. No one dared to ask his business, no one dared to make a slip. The stranger there among them had a big iron on his hip, big iron on his hip. It was early in the morning when he rode into the town. He came riding from the south side, slowly looking all around. He's an outlaw, loose and running, came the whisper from each lip. And he's here to do some business with a big iron on his hip, big iron on his hip. In this town there lived an outlaw by the name of Texas Red. Many men had tried to take him, and that many men were dead.
Okay, welcome back, guys. Now, ever since Fallout New Vegas came out, I've been obsessed with this game. The looks and the aesthetics are awesome, the storyline, the writing, and the gameplay. All around, just a fun time. So, a couple years ago, I started to see a number of people making clone New California Republic service rifles, especially with the TV show coming out last year. It's basically an M16A1 with wood furniture, so not really complicated to begin with. Now, for those of you who have never heard of or played the Fallout games, it's set in a post-apocalyptic world roughly 200 years after the US and China get into a nuclear exchange. At this point, society has devolved into various warring factions and tribes, sort of a Mad Max-influenced world mixed with a lot of 1950s cultural retroism. In this instance, New Vegas takes place around the Mojave Desert, and one of those factions is the New California Republic, whose symbol is a double-headed bear, which is an awesome parody of California's state flag. Their whole thing is restoring order to the wasteland, and their soldiers are equipped with NCR service rifles and include some pithy dialogue.
Patrolling the Mojave almost makes you wish for a nuclear winter.
Now, for those of you who have played the game, this is a key memory, I'm sure. It's just a fun rifle, and it's one of those guns that is just super cool and iconic. Now, building this rifle wasn't really a priority for me, but I slowly started getting the pieces together, and after several years, I came up with this. And I'll show you some Fallout-related references I built into the rifle. And just as a disclaimer, this isn't an exact replica of the rifle in the game, and I'll get into that in just a minute. Starting with the receiver, I had a buddy custom engrave this one, some of which was inspired by guys on Reddit and YouTube like King Blobfish and Michael 9R9R's Blasters, who I'll link to below. Now, Michael's video goes more in depth on closely examining the in-game rifle and looking to see if it's stamped sheet metal versus forged, the nuances of the side charging handle, cross-examining the pins in the receiver to see if you could actually disassemble a forged receiver, comparing the game-accurate magazines to make sure he had ones with the right grooves, and overall whether the game's rifle can actually exist in real life, if it actually was made correctly. So he spent a lot of time getting the tiny details right on his cologne, even down to the takedown pins, the bolt carrier color, and everything else. So definitely go watch his video, it's pretty informative. Spoiler alert, the in-game rifle couldn't actually exist in real life or would be prone to immense issues, so we had to take some liberties with this clone. So I actually got the blank lower from Bad Attitude Department, and I know they have that NCR lower that is actually correct to the game with the original US Army property markings and the circular US flag that would have been on it, but I wanted something more custom, so this is where I began to deviate from the lore-accurate rifle. Instead, I had the double-headed bear symbol of New California Republic put on it, which I thought was cooler. As for the serial number 390239, it stands for the cap value of all the gold bars found in the Sierra Madre Casino in the Dead Money DLC. I thought it was a good idea if I don't say so myself. The total value of all 37 gold bars is 390,239 caps, weighing 1,295 pounds. I was trying to think of number sequences that would be Fallout related instead of just randomizing it. For the selector switch labels, I asked ChatGPT to help me come up with some NCR themes, peace, order, and war, which it came up with, and I thought that fit perfectly. I then put the maker as Gunrunner's Arsenal Aditum Boneyard NCR, which is a reference to the first Fallout game. You can find a fortress here run by a faction called the Gunrunners, who sell ammo and weapons. It's also where you run into a million Deathclaws. In this alternative NCR, I guess the NCR runs it. Now, the NCR probably had tens of thousands of rifles, if not hundreds of thousands, left over from US Army stockpiles that were good to go. At some point, though, they would probably need to start making their own. So I actually borrowed this from a couple rifle examples I saw on Reddit. I tried to go back and find the original and couldn't, but if you're the originator, let me know and I'll drop a link to your thread in the comments. On the lore-accurate rifles, where the manufacturer is, it says Long Branch Arsenal, Ontario, USA territory, because in the Fallout universe, Canada was annexed by America. Side note, I actually have a number 4 Mark I Lee Enfield that was made at the real Long Branch Arsenal, which is kind of cool. When I first saw this, I was like, hey, I know that name. But there are a lot of different receiver builds I've seen with a lot of the same or similar variations as this one, but with different words or phrasing. You have a large New Vegas community, so you're obviously going to get a lot of different customizations. Now, on the other side is a Brotherhood of Steel stamp that I had scratched out. Yeah, I kind of made my own lore for this, where the Brotherhood of Steel captured the rifle from the NCR, and then maybe the NCR got it back at some point during a battle and scratched out. Who knows, but I thought it kind of looked neat. In total, the receiver, the metal engraving work, shipping, and the transfer cost for the lower was a total of $326. Now, as far as parts I used, I tried to replicate some of what was recommended from other clones and build lists, but as you know, parts are priced differently over time, things come up and go out of stock, and businesses shut down. Now, for the stock, many clone builders used wood from blackgunswood.com, but they closed their doors about 6 months ago. I emailed them and they said they had decided to close down and only sell what was left in their inventory. So instead I went with American Icon, who had some really nice black walnut made stocks specifically marketed for NCR rifle clones. These are the 12-inch triangular M16A1 handguards, and then of course you have the buttstock and then the pistol grip. Sometimes they go on sale from American Icon, so I grabbed one of their Black Friday sales for $400. From ordering to my door, it was about 5 weeks total. Now, one of my original concerns is like, how does wood furniture make sense with a barrel that gets pretty hot sometimes, especially with something that has a higher rate of fire than a bolt-action rifle? Well, the inside of the handguards are coated with C186 piston Cerakote, and they say it's heat resistant up to 1800 degrees. Now, they did have a disclaimer that this only works under normal operations and will not prevent heat damage under sustained or rapid fire. It said, "We will not repair or replace handguards that appear to have experienced mag dump marathons." So there you have it. Not sure you'd want to do this in a real rifle, but it makes for a cool aesthetic. And I mean, even with the new California Republic, you're out in the Mojave, so the coloring makes sense for the environment you're in. For the upper receiver and barrel, I grabbed a Black Friday deal on a Dirty Bird 20-inch 5.56 Retro M16A1 upper from AR15discounts.com. This happened to be $510 with shipping. So they had a couple different options, and this was the cheapest with no M4 feed lips. As long as the receiver and barrel assembly matched up, this didn't matter to me, so I pulled the trigger on it. Now, these retro uppers can go for a lot, so I consider this a good deal. I couldn't really find much on this particular product, and there were no reviews on Dirty Bird uppers, so it was a little bit of a gamble, but I had no problems with it yet. It's worked well, and I've had no jams so far. For the other parts, like the bolt carrier, the charging handle, the stock tube, and the lower parts kit, these combined for a total of $211, so I just waited for various deals to pop up. For the bolt carrier group, I picked up an NBS Black Nitride group. So everything totaled together, I spent $1,447.80. So not necessarily cheap, but you do pay a premium for the wood stock set and the engraving services. Otherwise, it's an $800 M16A1 clone. Now, I'll quickly review how it deviates from the game. Like I mentioned, this is not an exact clone of the in-game rifle. The real in-game rifle couldn't exist if you look at it for about 60 seconds, but I did try to match the aesthetics as much as I could. Again, we went over the issue with the side-mounted charging handle, the way the side-mounting charging handle is positioned in the game wouldn't work in real life because there isn't enough room to allow the bolt to clear around. There are side-mounted charging handles on AR-15s in real life. They just have a cutout in the receiver right here, so you can fully clear a cartridge. King Blobfish in his video did use a side charging handle. While I have no issues with this, it does look a little off from the game. The handle in the game is super tiny. It's like a little knob. I think going no side charging handle for this clone just looks aesthetically better. but not a super big priority for me, and I didn't even know if I could find a carry handle upper with a side charging handle. Maybe one day, but someone would have to correctly create that. A few other differences. The American Icon stock set got the color tone pretty close to the game color. Sometimes in the game, depending on lighting, it may look a little darker, but I think they got this one pretty spot on. The flash hider is different. Mine is a 3-pronged one instead of an A1 version that's in the game. The bolt carrier isn't chrome. See if you can see that here. Like I said, in the game, the bolt carrier is like a chrome color. Mine is black nitride, but that's an easy one to replace in the future. There are about a dozen other aesthetic differences like screw colors, magazine shapes, vent holes in the stock. In the game, there are no vent holes, but realistically, it would be weird not to have that on this rifle. I also never put a sling on this, which, to be fair, in the game it never had one visible from what I could tell, but just for practicality I'll probably get one at some point. Now, as far as my experience shooting this rifle, the magazine compatibility felt good with a 20-round mag like it is in the game. M16A1s, you'll always see them in pictures and movies with a 20-round magazine. In my initial reactions, I needed to, of course, sight it in, but I sighted in at 50 yards. Felt really good. It's lightweight. The receiver worked really well. I had no malfunctions with with having no M4 feed ramps, and for whatever reason, it felt good. It shot well. And to be fair, I've only shot 300 rounds or so through this, so it's not like it's proven, because we could encounter issues later on. Now, for the handguards, I didn't do mag dumps per se, but I did shoot multiple rounds out of this and then, clear it, throw another magazine in. I didn't experience any sort of like burning or smoke, or I didn't feel like there was any sort of damage to the handguards. Again, if you're firing, 500-600 rounds, you're doing a test of like, will these start catching on fire if I shoot, 1,000 rounds through this? The answer is probably yes, but I'm not going to shoot it at that rate of fire to find out, because I don't want to pay for another set of handguards. So anyway, shooting this rifle, making this cologne was a lot of fun. I didn't have any bad experiences. It looks awesome, especially for you new Vegas fans out there. And I hope to do some more shooting with this in the near future. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. And for the people I mentioned in the video, I'll link to them in the video description below. So with that being said, have a good day, guys.
We got ourselves a little Ranger family reunion now. When I got this assignment, I was hoping there'd be more gambling. Patrolling the Mojave almost makes you wish for a nuclear winter.